Hey guys, it's Brian at Sign Me Up Designs again, and I just got back from Daytona a few days ago, and now I'm ready to get back to work on everything we got going on here in the shop. So in the last video, we got the baffle installed in the CB750, and everything's good to go with that. But on today's video, we're going to be working on this thing that you see behind me. And this thing is awesome. You guys are really going to love this bike. So before I get started on the details of what this thing actually is, I'm going to give you a little bit of a backstory about this bike. So about 7 or 8 years ago, my brother came home with this absolutely beautiful Pro Street chopper that had just a wild paint scheme, had a big 26-inch front wheel and like a 300 rear series tire, maybe. It might have been a 330, I can't remember. But it was just a beautifully done bike. Now, whenever he brought that home, I got to admit, I got a little bit jealous, but I also had the idea, I said, you know, what can I do to build the same kind of bike with the same wow factor for a portion of the price that he paid for that bike? I posted an ad on Craigslist and said that I was in need of a Honda Rebel, not running any condition. I just wanted the cheapest bike I could find. So I had a guy reach out to me. He had a 97 Honda Rebel, which the Rebel is just a 2-cylinder, 4-stroke engine. And he said he couldn't get it to run. I wasn't sure what was wrong with it. He said, for $500, you can have it. So I went and picked it up. It was $500, and it ended up actually only being a dead battery, I believe, or a bad ground or something. But I got the bike running, and I ended up taking the motor off of it and selling it. So here's where my idea started. Before I even had this bike, I had the idea in my head of what I wanted to do. I wanted to put a 2-stroke engine on a street-legal motorcycle and drive it around and just kind of see what people's reactions were. So that leads us to the engine here. The engine is a single-cylinder, 2-stroke out of a Yamaha 4-wheeler called the Yamaha Blaster. It's a 200cc 2-stroke, and I actually put this Toomey racing pipe on here. It sounds phenomenal. So at this point, I paid $800 for the Blaster 4-wheeler, which it was a total wreck. If I can find it, I'll overlay it right now. But I think I paid like $800 for that 4-wheeler, and the motor was trash, but I actually ended up rebuilding the engine and just scrapping the frame and everything else. I didn't even want it. All I wanted was the engine. And the bike I paid $500 for. Now, I actually sold the engine out of the bike to a buddy of mine for like $200, I think, or $300. I can't really remember. So I was basically into the engine and the bike for less than like $800. So I said I wanted to have a bike that was wild to see coming down the road, but, you know, kind of simple when it came down to things. So basically, this is it. The frame is a Honda Rebel. I stripped everything down to pretty much nothing. It was just a bare frame, no engine. The swing arm was original, but as you can see, that's stretched out quite far. So let me elaborate a little bit more on the swing arm. So I had the idea to stretch it out really long, and I wanted to obviously make sure that it was supported well and that it was, you know, as safe as it could be for what it is. So what we did was, I had a buddy of mine who was an actual welder. We went and bought some rectangular tube steel that was the same spec as the factory swing arm, and we V-cut both sides, front and back, and supported it that way. It's actually very, very safe and secure. For the brake line, this is a factory drum brake setup, so we just took the drum brake and I just extended it out with some metal from here to there. And same thing with the support arm for the actual drum itself. Basically got a big piece of flat bar and just stretched it out to kind of make up the difference there. So I knew two things that I definitely wanted for this bike. I wanted the 2-stroke, and I had to have white wall tires, and I wanted the thick white walls. I didn't want the skinny little white walls. I wanted the biggest white walls I could get. So the wheels that are on this thing are still the factory Honda Rebel wheels, and I was able to find some tires that kind of work. The front's a little bit too wide. You can kind of see where it's kind of ballooned out there, but it still gives it that fat, like bobber style look to it. So for the swing arm is actually the factory swing arm, but I extended it about 2 feet. So from here to here, it's about a 2-foot stretch, which is pretty extreme for something like this. And obviously we put the white chain on it to match the white wall tires, put the white spring seat on it to match everything too. And my favorite part about this is a very simple gas tank, but I actually did some really high gloss metal flake. You can kind of see it in there. And it really just looks killer with this whole scheme we got going here. A couple other unique touches I had done. I had this taillight machine. This is actually from a guy, I can't remember the name of the website I got it from. The taillights he offered are actually pistons. You can see it's kind of like where the piston rod goes through here. That's a wrist pin, and then like the sleeve and everything like that. And actually the ones that he had 3 grooves for, you know, 2 compression and 1 oil ring. But I reached out to him and I said, hey, I'm putting this on a 2-stroke motorcycle. Could you do me a 2-ring piston, just, you know, because 2-strokes don't have the oil ring. So this is what he made for me. He just plasti dipped it black, and it really looks awesome. It's just a tail end brake light, and obviously twisted the custom license plate on the back there. So obviously the big thing you kind of notice about this bike, and one of the coolest features I like as well, is the big expansion pipe you see there. So this is the factory expansion pipe from a Toomey. It's a Toomey racing expansion pipe and muffler setup. But I actually had to extend it just a little bit from the head to get it to clear the down tube or the frame. But it's just like the huge fat expansion pipe with the big chrome piece that kind of draws your attention to it and say, what the hell kind of motor's on that? So I wanted to keep this design kind of simple. As you can see, there's no battery. It's a kickstart bike. It's just one simple little halogen headlight and one simple LED tail light in the back. But one of the other coolest things about this bike that a lot of people don't notice right away is that there's no clutch lever. So to make this even sketchier, I decided to go ahead and put the clutch and shifter on the suicide shifter down here. So I kind of made this out of the factory handlebars and just added the clutch lever down here. So again, if it wasn't dangerous enough with the stretch and the two-stroke, I decided to up the level of danger one more bit by putting the clutch on the gear shifter. So a question a lot of you guys are probably asking is this thing hard to ride? And the simple answer is yes, it's not easy at all. You definitely have to be a skilled rider. Me and one other guy have ridden this bike. It's not really that hard once you kind of get used to it, but taking off is definitely the hardest part, and then turning left is the hardest part as well, because when you have one hand stretched like this, you have the other hand on the gear shifter and the clutch lever when you're making into a turn, and you have to stretch your arm as far out as you can get it with one hand to make a turn really slow. So it's definitely difficult, not for the faint of heart, but I didn't build it to be comfortable, I built it to be extreme. So anyway, that's the details on this bike. So today what we're going to do is try to get this thing running. Now, it's not really a revival, so to speak, because I mean, it ran whenever I parked it, but this thing hasn't run in about 4 years now, maybe 5, I can't really remember. It's been quite a bit since I've had this thing up and running. As you can see, I've had other projects I've been working on, and other things have kind of taken my attention besides this bike. And you know, it's pretty much done. I have no other things that I really want to do with this bike, other than maybe sell it or trade it. So if you're interested in this bike or the CB750, hit me up on Instagram. It's at @the_Brian Rogers. Let me know. Maybe we can work out a trade. Maybe we can work out a sale. So again, today what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna try to get this thing started up for you guys and ride it around and see if I can still have a little bit more fun on it before I let it go. But obviously the gas in this thing is probably bad, so we're gonna drain the gas tank out, drain the carburetor out, put fresh fuel in it, get the mixture right for the oil. I deleted the oil pump on this thing. There's the old oil pump lines right here, so it's just a mix-in tank kind of two-stroke now. All right, enough talking about this thing. Let's get this gas drained out of here and the carburetor drained, and let's see if we can get this thing fired up. So for oil mix on this thing, we're gonna run a 32:1, maybe a little bit more than 32:1, because I kind of like it smoking a little bit more, if you know what I mean. And as far as oil, we only use, in any bike you see in here, I only use the Yamaha for the Yamahas, the Honda stuff for the Honda stuff. I always use the recommended oil for the manufacturer because it always has the right additives for that particular engine, gearbox, crankcase, whatever. But I always run the factory recommended stuff. There are some good alternatives out there. AMSOIL makes some good stuff, but for me it's just easier to run all this Yamaha for the two-stroke, and because I know it's going to work and I know it's the right thing for that motor. Safety cans. There's some sort of windstorm picking up, so I'm going to try to do this as fast as I can. Normally it takes about 4 or 5 kicks to start up, so we'll see what she's feeling like today. Ignition on, choke on. I've only got about a gallon of gas in this thing, just enough to see if it'll start up. Well, there's 5. Oh, I didn't turn the gas on. Whoops. Let's reset the counter. smell fuel. It's definitely leaking out somewhere. Did I flood it? I might have flooded it. Smell that? Well, you probably don't, but there's nothing I like more than the smell of a two-stroke engine. And I think I got the mix right. It's pretty smoky. I like it. And you know, we're making sure everything gets lubricated, but yeah, I love the smoke. So yeah, it's running great. I mean, I'm very, very happy with how this thing's running. As you can see, it cranked up on the, what, third or fourth kick maybe? I don't know. But yeah, it looks like there's a little bit of a windstorm coming around, maybe some rain coming. So I don't know if I'm gonna drive it today, but that is next on the list. So man, I'm just so pumped right now. That's it for today's video, guys. Let me know what you thought about this bike down in the comment section, what you did like, what you didn't like, what you would have done differently. If you haven't already, follow me on Instagram. It's _Brian Rogers, where you get updates to videos before they come out to YouTube. And if you haven't subscribed already, consider subscribing if you like this kind of content and motorcycle builds and motorcycle repair. Appreciate y'all watching. We'll see you in the next one.